Okay, just to put it out there, I got this free version of Rebelle, even though I had Rebelle 3 and have been using this for some time. This new updated version, Escape Motions allowed me a free version, and in agreement I would go ahead and review it for them, which I would have done anyway because I love this product. But just to be upfront before I go ahead and get into the video, this is what this is what they did. So on with the video. Okay, so this is the good news. Escape Motions has come out with a new version of Rebelle. Rebelle 4 is the update, and it's new and improved. Now I've always loved using Rebelle. The problem with using Rebelle was that it took so much from my computer that it was very hard to do other things with it. Like I couldn't record too much with Rebelle because it would just be very laggy, and it would be doing some of these quirky things, and I just really had to limit what I can do with it. Not so with this version. With this version, it's said to be 4 times faster. There's no lag. It doesn't pull so much from the computer memory, and I'm able to do so much more with it. So I'm able to record and use it as I would any program. All right, so and really that's all it took to make it. Was a really great program. It is beyond that right now as far as I'm concerned. So here's the opening. This is when you open Rebelle, this is what you get. Okay, it starts off and you got your different choices here as far as print, screen, favorites. I have no favorites as of yet. I mostly use the print, and I do nothing less than 300 DPI. This 13 by 9 inches, about, is mostly what I use. You can play around with the canvas here. You can choose the paper texture from white, very simple, to all of these different textures right here, as well as you can always, by clicking this will take you to the Escape Motions website where it says get more papers, and you can get more textures to use here. You can control the amount of texture. You can use deckled edges and so forth. And then again, you can also change the paper color over here. If none of these presets are useful to you, you can always click on the color that it's currently on, and you can change it. Either you can darken it, you can see the effect right here, you can darken it, or you can change the color altogether and to something that you desire. Okay, so I'm going to cancel because I'm going to keep it at this gray, and then I'm going to click OK, and I click OK again, and then it will begin to okay, there you go. It will begin to let me it'll bring up the canvas and everything I chose and so forth. And once we get to that, I'm going to go ahead and just sample these brushes. Now I've used these, and these brushes right here, it's a limited amount of brushes, but it's not important. What it has, it's great. And if that's not enough for you, with any of these brushes, you can click right here, right in the brush properties. Now you can change the brush properties and all that, and you can create a brush. Okay, so, and you can do that with all of those brushes. So I'm pretty fine with what they have so far. I'm not so far into this program where I can create the brushes, but I'm using what they have. Now this is the watercolor, and this is the main reason why I bought Rebelle to begin with all that time ago. Now if I do this, and this is one of the great things about this program, is that the brushes here mimic and now let me change it to mimic actual watercolor brushes or whatever it represents. I can stop the dripping right there. So this is what you get. Now you can control a lot of this in the visual settings. You got watercolor behavior. You have the absorbency, the rewetting, the texture influence, the edge darkening, which is something that I like, the drip size or drip length, and then you have selections here for your oils and acrylics and your canvas visibility. Now I didn't put a lot of, this is not a paper with a lot of texture. This is plain, so you're not going to get a lot over here. But if I were to have selected a paper with texture, I would have been able to manipulate it even more here. So anyway, that's for your visual settings, and then you have other selections here too. This is let's see. Now that lets you blend the paint, and see it'll continue to drip and blend with the surface below. Now over here, just above the layers, you'll see you have several selections. You have the dry layer, and that'll stop it from dripping, and then you can have the wet layer, and that'll wet everything all over again. So let me dry that. And then you have this. This is pause diffusion. What that means is that you can paint and it won't do anything until you hit this button again, and then you'll start to see it drip again. Now, you can't see it much with this. You can see it a little bit, but let me dry that. Pause diffusion and let it drip. So there you see, and then you can change the angle by which it drips right here. This is the tilt, you know. So you have control of that. And then of course there's say it doesn't all go the way you want it, you can also use, now you got two choices as far as a blender. Now one of the choices right here, just under the brushes, you see the blend over here. Now that is more of a smudge, and that's okay. However, if you use the blender right here, what it will do, it will take on the properties of whatever brush you selected here. Filbert's dry, and it'll blend according to that. Let me see, what did I have? I had the round brush. So I like using this blender a lot better. And then there's also an eraser which you can use, which it'll also take on the properties of the brush, unless you use this eraser. Now you can choose to keep the layer wet, and it does a totally different thing, you know, as far as this one is concerned. It doesn't erase away everything, and it keeps the property of the brush that you selected over here. So that's so much for the watercolors. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show a few of the things that let me clear this layer, that I've done with Rebelle since then. But, and you know, some clips here and there that I recorded myself working. But I just want to go through these brushes quickly. And this is the acrylic brush. Now I've used the acrylic brush for things before. As a matter of fact, it took up less of the CPU, and I was able to make some recordings with it. Now you see over here you have your choices of the gloss and the impasto depth, you know, so you can see it pick up more of a, it looks, you can see more of the brush strokes here, as well as, again, I would choose the blender here, and it will take on some of the properties of whatever brush is selected here. See, and here's the fan brush, and let me see if I can find something that will, okay, I can't see anything right there. Oh, maybe this flat brush. Yeah, see, the blender takes on the flat brush appearance. So that's, now one of the things that I really like about this program is a brush that was added, and that's the oil brush. Oh, first, before I go into the oil brush, one of the things about the acrylic brushes, the watercolor brushes, you have all these choices. There's not just the watercolor brush here, you have also gouache brushes, sumi, spatter. Now, I've played around with spatter. I haven't touched the sumi brushes yet, but I did play around with the gouache brushes, and they're great. Now you control how much water you have here, and you also control the opacity of the paint. You know, if I wanted to make it very opaque, you know, and it'll still, it's spreading a little bit, so, and you can stop that over here, but it does so because there's less water and so forth. And there's other properties here. You have a choice of transparent, semi-opaque, and opaque. So I'm gonna pick opaque, and I'm gonna put, so you can paint over it like you would acrylics, and then you can blend as well. Now let me see if I could do a more interesting blend here. So that's the acrylic brush. So there's a lot you can do with it. There are a lot of brush choices. Now let me get on with the oil brushes here, which I was very surprised by. Again, you have a large selection of brushes, thin paint and thick paint. The more interesting and the more showy ones are, of course, the thick paint. Here's the dry, thick, and you can see again, you can change the depth of the impasto. You can bring that down a little bit if you'd like. You can bring down the reflection of the oiliness that it has. And now again, I can use the blend mode, and it will blend this. You know, using the property of the brush you select. Now, if I select knife, it will do something totally different. Again, like I said, there's other brushes here. This is in the thin paint. This is a fan brush. And again, going back to the thicker paint, or yeah, the thick paint, you can see, let me see, rough dry. You can see the difference. You can see the difference in the impasto right here, and you can see the brush strokes more clearly. So I really enjoyed using this. You can see it looks a lot like real paint, you know, and less like digital stuff, right? Now I've used the pastels again. All of these are great at mimicking whatever medium you choose. The pencil is wonderful. The pencil is okay, it's at 2B. the pencil really, let me put it on a gray, so it really mimics what a pencil is like. And this is a flat, let me see if I, this is a flat, like a carpenter's pencil, very flat, you know. So there's a lot you get, and then you can go over here to charcoal, and you get more of a charcoal feel, and then you can blend. Okay, so, and you have other choices here. Again, there's a lot. There's more of it reflecting a digital pencil. What is this? Okay, which I prefer, as long as I'm going to try and imitate real media rather than digital media. I prefer to use the tools that show that, because that's why I purchased Rebelle, honestly. Now there's other things. There's also an ink, and again, I have not used this, but you can see that it's not that bad, you know. And there's again, you can create your own brush. You can fool with the properties of the brush if you'd like. I believe so. There's a lot you can do with it. So these are the brushes that I've worked with. Now I haven't worked. I believe this is a marker right here. I haven't really touched these, and an airbrush. Again, I have not touched the airbrush. I basically use this program for the watercolor, the oil brush, the acrylic brush, the pastel brush, and the pencil. Apart from that, you know, I'm still exploring. Everything has its uses, and I don't throw anything out. But if you want to get a program that really mimics traditional media, this is the program for you. It's I believe it's $89.99 now. For the upgrade, it's like it's half that price. If you already have Rebelle, I highly recommend getting the upgraded version. Rebelle 4, again, there's no lag. I'm able to use it and record, whereas the other one I wasn't able to do that on my computer. So where running it on the absolute minimum was difficult before, I think it'd be less so, even though I upgraded my computer so I can use the earlier version of the program. Still, it was difficult. Now it takes this one perfectly. It's terrific. It's 4 times faster. That's what they advertise, and after using it, that's what I feel. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some clips from some work I've done with Rebelle 4 since I've got it, and I've been playing around with the software for a bit now. Okay, so this is an oil painting that I started not too long ago with Rebelle, and one of the things I like, see, it has this reference window that I can open up, and I can just either click on it and let it take me to the file, or I can just drag and drop the file to the window and use it. So here it is. I have this separate window for my reference, and I can take that window and move it around. I just happen to like to keep it to my left, and so it's another neat feature that it has. Unfortunately, you can only open one window, so I don't see where I can put, if I need to, any more reference. I only have the choice of adding the one reference. So that's the only drawback that I have, that I see with this. Other than that, it's neat to have it there. And so I'm just starting, like I said, this is an oil painting, but I'm going to go ahead and start this with whatever brushes are, whatever brushes. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just making a grisaille, something that I can build my painting on. So the only thing I'm concerned about right now is having a underpainting, having a grisaille that I can develop and I can work on top of as far as applying the paint. So I'm working on the drawing. I'm working a little bit on the values. Really, what matters to me most right now is the placement and the drawing, and that's all I'm going for with the brushes that I'm using. So I'm just using the pastel brush. I use the watercolor brush just to get me started over here. I also chose a dark back, not a dark, a tone background, so to start at. So I'm not working from the white. I just seem to, I find it comfortable to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit so that I can go ahead and get to the more juicier part of the paintings. Okay, so like I said, I'm speeding this up, and I'm using just the pencil here. I might throw in some watercolor. Actually, I kind of accidentally started using the watercolor. I wasn't watching what medium I was using, but it doesn't matter. I was just trying to start an underpainting here and put down the placement, put down the drawing before I can go ahead and add the color. So that was the only important thing for me to start. And I could have gone ahead and just made this a pencil drawing. I've done that with this particular reference before. This is a reference of a photo I took of my wife a while back, but I could have used like I said, the pencil. I've done that before with this particular reference. I wanted to go ahead and make a painting out of it, and I carried it quite a bit here for what it was. And I'm going to paint over this, so I wasn't so concerned about the color right now. It's like, just getting the placement, getting the drawing correct, and took a particular amount of time with the values, because what I'm going to do is that when I go ahead and add the color, I'm going to open up another layer for the color, and I'm going to reduce the opacity so the color would be more of a glaze over what I've drawn. So the values become very important. Right now I'm going to go ahead and transition into the color here. This is all that I need. Again, I have the drawing, I have the values, I have the placement, I have everything I need to start this painting. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that layer so that I can begin to add the color. So here it is. I lowered the opacity. You can see the layer editor on the right, and it's open on a third layer, and on that layer I lowered the opacity so that the color that I add would be a glazing color over what's down there. Now the color will look kind of thin and not rich at first, but that's okay, because as I build up the painting and I add more color, I'll be able to add richer color and also change the color temperature as I continue to paint and work over this. Now, one of the things is that I add layer after layer, that'll also begin to build up the impasto or the impasto look, so that you'll be able to see the brush strokes more clearly later on. Especially, I concentrated a lot of building up that type of paint impasto on the background, so that you can see the texture in the background. But that comes much later, and that's less important right now than the portrait. Although I one of the things that I try to remind myself is to put in the background, because the background has an effect on the colors. It's better to choose the background now and let that influence the colors I put, rather than paint the painting and then try and figure out what color background will work later on. So I'm gonna move ahead. Like I said, I just want to sample the different things that I've done with Rebelle. So I'm gonna move ahead to another part of this painting so that I can show you where I end up at. Okay, so right here you can see that I got a great deal of the painting done. I'm nowhere near finished, but you can see as I develop the painting that the colors got richer. They're still going to get even more richer, and in certain areas, and you can see the background, you can see more of the texture of the paint, and you're going to see it more as well in other parts of the painting. So I've taken this a long way, and this is just showing you a bit of what that oil brush can do. You know, it's a really great brush. It's a really great it mimics that traditional feel a lot more than I've seen other software do. And for not too, it's not too big of a price tag at $89, $89.99. That's not a lot compared to some of these other products that you see out there. So here you have the finished painting, and again, the colors got richer. You can see the texture in especially the background, but also in different areas of the painting. I was able to use the layers to and lower the opacity of the layers to help me glaze over certain parts and build up the richness of the paint, and also the change the temperature of the paint from a warm to a cool, and paint over certain areas so that the painting that I put over, because it's because I lowered the opacity on the layer, doesn't entirely cover over what's underneath, but it kind of blends and mixes with it. So anyway, that's the oil brush, and I'm very happy with that brush. Let me go ahead and show you the watercolor brush, which is also a great tool. Here's a watercolor painting in progress, and again I'm using the reference image window to put my photo there that I'm working on. And you can see I picked a paper that pretty much absorbs the watercolor a bit more. You can pick another paper with or you can set you can set it so that it doesn't absorb the watercolor as much, and you can also set it so that the texture of the paper, the canvas that you're working on, also affects the watercolor less and less. Or you could leave it where it does. It's just your preference. But you can see, even though this paper absorbs the color a bit, you can still see the paint moving as it and I have it tilted so it goes down a bit, so it's moving downward, and as I'm painting, it moves less. The minute I stop painting, the minute I take the brush off or the stylus off my monitor that I'm working on, the paint will start to diffuse, and it'll start to drip, and then do all those neat things that this program does to make it appear as though it is actual watercolor that you're working with. And it'll continue to drip down, and I'm letting it do it. I don't know how far it will get. I especially wanted to put a darken the edges around the puddle of color like watercolor does. You can see there was a sudden drop now because I changed some of the settings, and you can see down under the beard that particular wash of color continues to drop down very slowly, but enough so that it starts to leave a dark edge around the color. So I like that, and I like how it looks like watercolor, and I develop it that way. And so I'm going to go ahead and move to another part of this painting. So right here, I've taken it a long way, and what I'm doing, I'm not finished yet, but what I'm doing is basically the same thing that I've done with the oil painting that I did, or the oil brush that I did before. That is, I will open up a layer, I will change the opacity on the layer as needed. Sometimes, like here, it would be on full opacity, or other times I would lower it, and then I would begin to add like cool colors. Like you can see on the left side of the forehead, I added a little bit more blue. Also on the right, you can see traces of blue. So I can play around with the as I lower the opacity with the with the temperature of the color, with the intensity of the color, with the light or the dark, and so forth. I can use that. I can use that kind of glazing technique with the layers. Also, with that, as I pointed out before, I have a wide selections of brushes to play with. I have not only the watercolor brushes, I have in this the gouache brushes and so forth. And so I use all of those colors, and well, not all. I use all of those, as many brushes as I need to get what I want done. And again, using the different properties of the layer, and there's so many things that you can use here to get what you want done. It's kind of hard to go over them in just one video, or just or even just in this quick overview. But for sure, I'll have more videos on using the watercolor brush, and also using the oil brush, which I'm very, very fond of, to make these paintings that really mimic traditional media well. So again, this is the watercolor brush. There are many other brushes here. They do the same thing as far as successfully mimicking, like I said, traditional media. This program does it exceedingly well. So what I can do as well is go over some, just show you some of the things that I've worked on since I've gotten this program. So there are a number of pieces that I've done with this. So here's the finished watercolor of that, and this is a pencil drawing that I did of the same, using the same reference. You can see this is an oil. There's so much that you can do with this software, and you don't even have to tell people that it's digital, because it will look like traditional. Believe me. I'm pretty happy with this software, and you can see all of this stuff looks like it's actually done in traditional media. So I highly recommend Rebelle. It's a great software. Give it a try. I know there's like a free trial that you can do. So until my next video, I hope that you try this software and that you enjoy it. Leave me some feedback as far as what you think about the software. Have you tried it yourself? Or, I know that there's a ton of software out there that has similar things, but I believe this delivers everything in a great package, especially since they changed the program, they upgraded the program, and it works 4 times faster than it used to. So it's just a great program to use. Again, leave me whatever feedback, opinions that you have on Rebelle if you've tried it. I hope that you are willing to try it. Okay, so up until next time, I will be back with another video.